Welcome to the world today. I'm Waqas Majeed Khan, and first of all, a very happy Independence Day to all our viewers. Since it is Independence Day, there's nothing other than that we can really talk about. And to talk about it, we've invited special guests to our studio today. First of all, let me introduce to you Commander Arslan Baig of the Pakistan Navy. He's joined by Surgeon Lieutenant Commander Beenish, who's also from the Pakistan Navy. And we have our very own Mr. Nadeem Tarar, who is an educationist and has been on our shows many times. Thank you so much for being here. Arslan, I'll start with you. Since it is the 14th of August and we are celebrating our Independence Day, what do you think has been the Navy's greatest contribution in our 70 years?
Well, the Navy's contribution in 70 years, I would primarily mention that the Navy has been tasked, and it's one of our main roles, to safeguard our sea frontiers and to safeguard our maritime sector as well, and to ensure that our sea lanes of communication, which are so important for the trade, are also guarded well. So coming to these elements, that is the prime role, that to safeguard the maritime frontiers of the country. And at the same time, the Navy has also contributed towards, because the coastline is about 1,000 kilometers, so the Navy has been placing itself and has been expanding along the coast, and be it Ormara, be it Karachi, be it Keti Bandar in the creeks, I mean the Sindh coast, and all the way up till Gwadar and Javani, Navy has been establishing and contributing towards the social uplift of the communities there, whether it be the education, whether it be the health sector, or the general uplift of the area. The Navy has been contributing towards that as well. And
most importantly, it is the safeguard of our maritime frontiers, which is the most important task that they have. Well, Beenish, in your line of work, first of all, how long have you been associated with the Navy?
It's been almost 8 years now.
8 years?
Yes, we were inducted in 2010.
So tell us a little bit about your experience of being a woman and working for the Navy, because it's one of those fields where we don't see many women. So how has that experience been?
Well, so far it has been very thrilling, amazing, educating, and it has filled me with immense pride up to date. I would say that more and more females should come and join forces, because it not only empowers you, but it disciplines you in all walks of life. It tells you how to face challenges. It prepares you for war times, for peace times, and at the same time, it actually gives you opportunities to enhance your skills. Females are there in every walk of line in Navy. That is, they are engineers, they are lawyers, they are IT professionals, and just like me, they are doctors as well. So we are trying to reach out to the masses, and we are no less than any of our male counterparts. We are sent together with them to serve in medical camps and even in the hospitals that are located in far-flung areas, like our established facility that is in Darmanja, Gwadar, and even here, that is PNS Hafiz and Karachi PNS Shifa, being a hospital, because I'm a doctor, so I would more talk about the health.
Okay, we'll come to that later. Let me also talk to Nadeem Saab about what his contribution has been. Nadeem Saab, while I was preparing for the show, I was thinking about starting with Quaid-e-Azam's speech, which he gave on the 11th of September, and I think we have a small excerpt of that speech. If the producer can just run that little excerpt, and then we can take the cue from there. So please, go ahead.
सब आजाद है अपनी मस्जिदों में जाने के लिए और किसी भी और इबादतगाह में जाने के लिए इस ममलिकत पाकिस्तान में आपका ताल्लुक किसी भी मजहब, जात या अकीदे से हो, ममलिकत का इससे कोई सरोकार नहीं.
Now that was a very, very important message that the Quaid-e-Azam gave. In your opinion, sir, do you think that we have been able to realize the dream that our forefathers saw, the dream that Quaid-e-Azam and Allama Iqbal saw for the kind of nation that Pakistan would become? Do you think that we've been able to capture that dream in any way, or do you think that we are far away from that and we really need to work hard towards that?
Yes, I think yes, we are far away. But like all dreams, like human dreams or national dreams, dreams require effort for their fulfillment. Dream is, some kind of wish that you place for the future, and then you have to make that effort in order to fulfill that dreams. Dreams are not granted without effort. Dreams, the kind of dreams which are seen with the eyes open, require, solidarity and strength for all the ranks of the citizens to pull together, whether they are from armed forces, they are from navy, they are civilians, or they are politicians. All of us have to actually work together to fulfill the dream that our founder of the country saw. On that note, it's very interesting that folks from Navy are here. The first guard of honor, which was given by the Pakistani Army, was actually by the Pakistan Navy at the Karachi when Qaid-e-Azam landed. So it is a singular honor to the Pakistan Navy that they had they were the first one to salute our Pakistani soldiers to the Qaid. So I think Qaid also saw a greater role for the Navy in defending, not only defending Pakistan's frontier, but also actually creating an image for the country where all the ranks, all the people are integrated.
All citizens, you mean?
All citizens are integrated. So I think Navy has quite a national character as we see, and it has recently, as we've been saying now, has integrated women into its ranks as well in the relevant disciplines.
Now, that is a very, very heartening and a good thing. Coming to you, Arslan, let's talk about how the world has changed over the years. Since Pakistan's inception in 1947 today, in 2018, the world is a very different place. And there are much greater threats. And especially when we talk about the development of Pakistan, we have CPEC, which is a very important, called a game changer for the region and so on and so forth. What kind of a role is the Navy playing in terms of protecting the CPEC and also protecting other economic concerns of Pakistan?
Okay. Specifically answering to the question regarding CPEC, CPEC, as you know, is a major project which is part of the One Belt, One Road initiative. And though it is all the way, it has a lot of land connections as well, but specifically talking about the maritime element, Gwadar, the Gwadar port, which is part of the CPEC project as well, that is the linchpin, because that is the place where all the trade will terminate. So the security of the Gwadar port, or to talk more specific, the maritime security of all trade and all CPEC related projects is being entrusted to the Pakistan Navy, and Pakistan Navy is a major stakeholder of this particular project. The Navy has established CTF 88, a special task force for security of the Gwadar port, which means all the cargoes which are destined for the port or maybe sailing out, all sort of cargoes, they are escorted, they're provided with the security by elements of the Pakistan Navy, along with the Pakistan Maritime Security Agency and other stakeholders as well. And the security of the Gwadar port itself, the Chinese and the foreign nationals working over there, that has been entrusted to the Pakistan Navy, where naval marines and our regular PN forces and the sailors, they're actually managing it and controlling and safeguarding.
So one of the perceptions that has been held by most people regarding the Navy is that it's the smallest sort of armed force that we have. Of course, the Pakistan Army is at the forefront, and then we have the Air Force, which proved themselves in the 65 war. But we don't really hear much about the Navy. It's not a very media-friendly wing of the armed forces. Do you think that's correct, or do you think that that's changing now? What is your opinion?
Well, that's of course changing, because it's more now. We're living in the information age, so the media warfare itself is part of the whole warfare game. So it's all about your representation, and specifically talking about the Navy. Well, the world has changed immensely. It's no more the sea. You call it more like the global commons, The threats are there. Alhamdulillah, the threats at sea are relevant, are lesser in degree, but threats like piracy, threats like smuggling, threats like human trafficking, all of these are there. So the Navy is already cognizant of these threats, and we have entrusted our own setup. We are taking our own safeguards as well. The Navy established the Coastal Security and Harbour Defence. So as I said, the coastline is about 1,000 kilometers. The Balochistan coast, which is known specifically as Makran coast, and the Sindh coast, which is east of Karachi. So primarily the Indus Delta. So the Navy established Coastal Security and Harbour Defence, and it's got its security stations there to man, to counter these threats and generate responses. And at the same time, the Navy has been contributing in its own right and its own standing in the CTF, in different coalition forces. Navy has been part of the coalition forces program, and the Navy has been conducting a series of exercises with different navies, which are more like bilateral exercises, be it the Turkish Navy, be it the Chinese, be it any Navy coming and visiting Pakistan, and a more organized series of exercises known as the Aman series. Aman meaning peace in Urdu, and the emblem of this exercise is actually Together for Peace. So we have been conducting regular series of exercise on biannual basis, and the next exercise is scheduled next year, in which we expect a high level of participation from regional navies as well as navies from beyond as well. We have got participation from places and navies far off as Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey. So Navy has been contributing in its own standing towards Pakistan, and by default the naval officers or Pakistan Navy has its own role, which is a little which is more like a benign role, in which we are ambassadors of the country. So whenever our ship goes to any country, to be more specific, I myself have been on different goodwill visits, and I've traveled all the way up till Japan, China, Malaysia, Singapore, Burma, Sri Lanka, Maldives. So whenever we go, we represent our country, and we are like our ambassadors, and we more do like a flag showing, and then we do carry out the exercises, and we do volunteer work, and we interact with the people over there as well. So,
well, I'm glad that you mentioned the volunteer work, and I'll bring this question to Beenish. Beenish, environment in today's day and age with global warming and all these issues is another major problem for Pakistan that we're confronting. We've also heard that the sea levels are rising, and therefore, you know, a lot of the water is being pushed up towards the land, and the rivers are getting more salty, especially in the Indus Delta, as you were mentioning. So is the Navy also undertaking some kind of activity to address the environmental concerns that Pakistan would be facing as a result of such a huge sea coast? And I'll also ask Nadeem Saab that whether the education department is working with the Navy in terms of discovering what the oceans are, because we don't even know what the oceans really represent, because there's so much plastic pollution and a lot of problems for fishermen not finding enough fish. So these are all issues that we are confronting. Is the Navy also looking into these aspects? You can both answer.
True. Well, the Navy is cognizant of the pollution, especially towards the environment, and the Navy, amongst all elements of the national power, celebrates the Environment Day annually. And other than that, because as I mentioned, the coastline figures out prominently in Navy's planning and Navy's mandate.
Because there are a number of fishermen villages that are located along the coastline.
True. And in fact, the coastline, as I was mentioning, figures out prominently in our planning. So the mangroves, which I'm sure all of you know, that we have been losing on the mangroves at a very fast pace. So the Navy has planned to carry out plantation of the mangroves, and that has not been done at a very small level. That has been done on war footing. So the Chief of the Naval Staff has given specific directions that the mangrove plantation in the coastal areas, whether it be east of Karachi, as I mentioned, in the Indus Delta, where it's fast depleting, or whether it be in Pasni or Mara, Gwadar, these activities have to be done at a very fast pace. So in the Shah Bandar and in the creeks where they're fast depleting, so we have been given a target of planting 2 million saplings of mangroves.
But do you think that that is the real solution? Because if you're going to plant more trees and the conditions for the death of the previous ones still remain the same, then that's a pointless exercise.
True. No. Well, actually, to be more result oriented, there's a particular time of the year when you are supposed to plant these Avicenna plants, the trees which is for the mangroves, and if you miss this particular slot, then it's the survival rate is less. So these particular plantations are done in a specific time period, in a specific month where these are planted. So the reason that we have been given a target of, which is itself a very challenging task, planting 2 million trees in a short span, but by achieving this, even if the results are not good, we have a specific survival rate. And by planting these trees, the Indus Delta erosion which is going on at this very moment, for example, in places like KT Bandar and places like Shah Bandar where the Indus Delta is eroding, so by planting these trees and taking care of them, nurturing them, because we just don't plant, then we have our own teams who go and visit these particular areas, and then they're monitored at the level of the Navy.
And they're so important because for the overall environment and the health of the oceans as well as the land itself, these are the places where fishes have their nurseries.
These are the habitats, exactly. The shrimps which are caught. In fact, I've been hearing the best shrimp in the world is found from the creeks and the Indus Delta, to be more specific. And I must say right here that it's not the Navy which is primarily doing it. We get a lot of support from the IUCN, from the WWF. So we take their teams on these visits as well. Talking about environment, I can again tell you another dimension to this, that there's a place called as the Astola Island, which is down below, it's about 30 nautical miles south of Pasni, where that area has been declared as a environmental friendly habitat. So that's an area where we've got the best fish, because incidentally I happen to be a diver as well. So the best fish and the most colorful sea plants are found there. So the Astola Island, which is again a tourism area.
Can it rival the Great Barrier Reef or something like that?
Yes, it can, because the Great Barrier Reef, well, it won't be as huge as the Great Barrier Reef.
Yes.
Of course, it's pretty small, but the variety of plants and the variety of fauna underwater, I mean, and the fish and the snakes and different creatures are very much there, and this place has not been tapped well.
Well,
so
maybe we should keep it like that so that it stays like that.
True.
Beenish, tell us about your role in the Navy, helping your fellow citizens, especially those villagers that are living on the coastal areas and they don't have access to education, they don't have access to hospitals. What kind of a role does the Navy play in that sense?
Okay, so first of all, as I mentioned, that females are part of every walk of life there. So being doctor, I would emphasize more, like we have these different establishments. In Karachi, we have a hospital, but recently Navy has made a hospital called PNS Darmanja, which means cure and healing in Balochi language, which is located in Omara, which is just between Gwadar and Karachi. So it is rendering not only medical facilities, but expert medical facilities with state-of-the-art hospital that is to be equipped with all the latest technologies there. There are people come
And you're
from
giving free treatment
free treatment to the
people of the
locals.
area.
The statistics are as such that if there are 14 to 15 officers coming daily, then there are about 200 to 300 locals that actually come for treatment. For various treatment, there are surgeries, there is a gynae department running fully operational there. There are various medical facilities tendering to people with chest infections and hepatitis. And then we also, not only this, but every doctor is made to go over there, and it's a part of their training that is made mandatory. So you don't, so it's not like every hospital is justified in the sense. It's not like one hospital, the doctors are really good, and in Darmanja, they won't be that good of medical expertise. But that is, Navy has its own way of maintaining the level of health facilities. Apart from that, we are also organizing medical camps on regular basis. Last year, few years back, if you remember, there was a drought in Thar. So we went there, and there was a huge there was a huge a lot of officers that went there. There were PN Marines there who did all their part of actually securing the people to some safe land. And then we established a medical facility where we decided to cater as many people as we could. We treated children with diarrhea, skin infections, and then there were females who needed medical aid. There were people with fractures. So Navy has been rendering services from time to time.
So this is the Navy's philanthropic
Yes.
sort of aspect or
Apart
side.
from that, I would also like to take this opportunity and mention that we've also established a PN Cadet College in Umara that will produce excellent officers in the future, I'm sure. So it has got its first batch of, I think, 25 to 30 cadets, if I'm not wrong, and we are just busy in polishing them and making them. So I think educating them is the key to eliminating poverty, unemployment.
That seems to be the key to all our problems,
Yes,
really.
yes,
And that's why I'm
true.
going to bring the next question to Nadeem Saab. Nadeem Saab, education is your field. And today we are on the cusp of a new sort of era that has started in Pakistan with the new government going to be taking oath. How important is it really for this new incoming government to pay attention to the education sector, and how can the education sector be integrated with all other walks of life? Because many people, after getting an education, find that there are no jobs available. So how are we going to work on all these factors, because this is what really is important for Pakistan's future?
Yes, and in this endeavor, as we are hearing that not only Navy but also Armed Forces non-combat role has expanded. I mean, I had a personal experience of working with the principal of this newly established cadet college, Ormara, who is also a naval officer. And he, with the dedication, I wasn't expecting that he will be able to actually act as a mentor to those cadets. He is a naval officer, he might be good in his own field, but as a teacher, he has actually, sort of transformed the very personality of those kids, the kids who would probably had no future. So I think one lesson that we need to learn is that the education is the only way to create a new Pakistan, to create a new country. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It is only by changing the mindset through education and socialization that you can turn any person into a first-class gentleman or
A
lady.
productive
You know what I'm
citizen
saying?
in society.
Productive citizen in society.
Yes.
There is no other way. I mean, coercion or punishment or surveillance or control will not yield a nation. Education will yield a nation. I mean, these two individuals might not have been what they are now without their education, without having the fortunate access to schools. Now, in a country where millions of children are out of school, where even more millions are dropping out of school, right? And where, we have, I'm sure you would know that the Pakistan, according to the world population sort of statistics, is a younger nation. UK has an average age 40, Pakistan has an average age 22. So this particular youth bulge can be turned into an asset.
Absolutely,
through
sir.
education.
But I'm going to interrupt you here because as we can see on our TV screens, The ceremony at Wagah border is underway, and of course that is also a part of the 14th of August celebrations. We also want to talk about how the Navy celebrates the 14th of August. We want to sort of bring it back a bit and talk about something lighter. So tell us what does the Navy do? I mean, how do they celebrate the 14th of August?
The 14th of August, as mentioned, the day starts, of course, the Fajr prayers happen, and well, we pray for the prosperity and progress of the country, and we have a 21-gun salute early in the morning to commemorate, because there are specific occasions once we do these activities, and followed by this, we carry out, because we've got the Navy, as I was mentioning, is based all along the coast as well, and all naval units and the naval establishments and the headquarters. We have our own ceremonies where the ships, the officers, the men, they get together, and we have a flag hoisting ceremony. I mean, other than the one which is covered at Mazar-e-Qaid, which is of course a very highly sought after activity, and of course it's been Navy's privilege for so many years, ever since independence, that the mounting of the guard at the Qaids.
At Allama Iqbal's mausoleum in Lahore, it's rotated. One year you have the army, the next year the air force, the third year the navy, and it keeps going. Is it the same in Karachi as well?
Exactly,
at the Qaids mausoleum
because mounting the guard at the Qaids mausoleum is a very coveted kind of honor, and that's the reason that it's rotated. But on the Independence Day, it is the Navy which does it. And again, adding to the previous point regarding education and the social uplift of the coastal communities, because I incidentally happen to have served at Ormara, so on a personal account, I can narrate numerous examples where there had been accidents on the Makran Coastal Highway, which connects Karachi and Gwadar all the way up till Jivani. So not many people know that other than Darmanja, PNS Darmanja, which is established at Ormara, there is no major hospital west of Karachi other than Quetta. So Quetta is far away. So many times there were road accidents, many times there were casualties, whether it's a naval casualty or from the armed forces, the army, the air force. So the hospital at Darmanja had provided crucial medical treatment and saved numerous amount of lives. So that is a contribution that Navy has been doing, and again it is free medical treatment and medicine for all individuals, whosoever.
Right, so coming back to the all-important CPEC and the Gwadar port, we've heard so many great things about it, but how soon do you think the Gwadar port is going to become fully functional, or how long do you think it's going to take for Gwadar to become a thriving city or a metropolis?
True. Well, they have, as I said, the Navy's maritime stake and the maritime domain is well defined, which the Navy is pretty cognizant of safeguarding, and up till now, as I was mentioning, they've established this force, which 24 hours a day, like the security of the port is being managed by the Navy and the vessels as well. But other than this, coming to a specific point regarding the Gwadar port, so you must try to understand that the Gwadar port itself, right now it's in the phase 1. So there's another phase which will be having more berths, which will be having more capacity of ships, the container ships, the bulk cargo carriers which will be coming there. I must share with you over here that the Gwadar Port Authority has already commenced a ferry service which is started to operate once or twice a week of the cargo. So the kickstart has been taken, and again, being such a mega project, it will not happen overnight. Of course, it's being done in phases. There will be extension of the berths. They will have facility for storage of fuel, and then you will have another transshipment area where you need to put the containers. So they've got the cranes there already. So things are going at a very fast pace. But again, talking about just the port, the port will, in my view, be taking a little while. Maybe it's 1 year or 2 years, but it's very much going on track. And
1 or 2 years is not that long a time,
true.
actually.
But yes, but in the bigger dimension, like if you're talking about other support services, the road network is already over there. But if you're talking about other services which might subsequently take time, and it's got a proper plan, as in the phase 2 extension of the berths. And but right now the port, as I was mentioning, the port is fully operational.
Let's also talk about the role of the Navy in terms of how large is it? Do you think that we as a naval force are adequate, or do you think that there's a lot of more room for improvement? There's a lot more room to expand the naval force as it is. What's your opinion on that?
Okay, well, there's, as it's always said, there's always room for improvement. So the Navy's plans, the Navy has a specific developmental plan and its goals. So these goals and the plans are as per a particular time frame and as per our own force goals. So I must share with you over here that it has recently come in the media as well that though we have our own number of ships as well, but the Navy has contracted Chinese ships which will be made in China, and subsequently the transfer of technology will happen. So there are 4 destroyers, frigates which will be taken, the type 054, and then the offshore patrol vessels are also being contracted for the Navy as well. And other than that, the patrol boats, the fast attack patrol boats, those will be made at the Karachi shipyard as well. So all these projects, we are getting these, as I was mentioning, the 4 destroyers. Then we've got a fleet tanker, which is important for the ship's sustainability for the fueling. So that is near completion, and it will be joining the force very soon. And then we have got our missile boats. So as I'm mentioning, the Navy's surface fleet is definitely expanding, and then we have also got the Chinese submarines. There are 8 in number. So the subsurface fleet, because I must try to educate you over here as well, that the Navy is a 4-dimensional force, unlike any other force of the Pakistan Armed Forces. We have got our aircraft, which is the aviation. Then we've got the surface Navy, which I was talking about earlier, the ships. And then we've got the subsurface, which is the submarines. So the submarines, we have got our projects. I've just briefed you. The surface fleet, we're expanding.
What about your aircraft carriers? How many do you have?
Well, the aircraft carrier will be too tall in order. Will be too tall in order. The reason being because the aircraft carriers, first of all,
that was just on a lighter note. You don't have to tell me that. Beenish, if you could share your message for your fellow citizens on this auspicious day of the 14th of August, what would that message be to everybody?
I think, first of all, I would like to stress upon the importance of education. And what I would like to tell here and take the opportunity of this forum is that never stop yourself from evolving. Grab every opportunity you have to groom yourself, to acquire a skill, to be helpful to someone, and then prove a name for your country, because that will change your perspective of seeing things. You will have positivity in yourself, you will be a constructive citizen, which we require a lot.
Absolutely. What would you like to say about the role of women or the participation of women in Pakistani society? Because we don't see as many women as one would see in any other normal country for that matter. Why do you think is that the case? And in fact, Nadeem Saab, I would like your opinion on the same as well.
I think now the times have changed. Before, women were not considered as equivalent or as competitive, I would say, but then they started gaining knowledge, and opportunities were not provided in the past as compared to now. I think there are universities, even in medical colleges, the females tend to outnumber the males. And even if you see in various educational institutes, women are gaining more important roles. And if you talk particularly about Navy, it's all about giving opportunities and then educating them and asking them. So we are as supportive as the male counterparts. And our role is very important because If we would not be able to treat the patients, if we would not be able to make those important connections in IT fields or solve various cases being lawyers, I don't think so that the entire institute can actually function. So I think females are as important in any field or in any walk of life as compared to males, and I think they're more endurance as compared to males in walks of life.
And that's the most important thing, that now we're seeing that women are taking the space that has been denied to them over centuries, one would
Yes.
say. Nadeem Saab, what would you like to say about that?
I think I'll echo the similar sentiments here. I mean, women are half the population of the country, and if they are not given the opportunities that they deserve, especially at the school level, you know, if you drop out of the school, you have no future. You know, if you sort of drop out of the university, you still can probably end up doing something, you know, right? So I think it is absolutely essential that we increase enrollment, girls' enrollment, because if female is an educated mother will give you an educated nation. It's almost you know,
cliche now.
It's a cliche now to
Well,
say.
you know, Hitler said that. He said, give me good mothers and I'll
And
give
I'll
you
I
a
give
great
think
you
maybe
nation.
Napoleon or whoever. But what I'm saying is
Hitler.
Acha,
Yes.
maybe. But what I'm saying is that essentially we have to learn this lesson and imbibe it, you know, just really sort of absorb it intimately and deeply. And secondly, you know, I think the women in their professional field do hit a glass wall at the end of the day, having done everything
Or a
comparable.
glass ceiling, you mean?
Yes, of course. A glass ceiling or a glass wall, they can't go up and they can't go around. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yes, sir.
So they have a, because that's the cultural limit that we impose on the mobility of the woman. You know what I'm saying? But it's really surprised that lots of very tough jobs of, let's say, newspaper reporters, they are taken up by a woman, you know, armed forces, Navy, Air Force.
Now we have
BBC,
fighter pilots in the
fighter
Air
pilots
Force as
Yes.
well.
so I think these examples need to be celebrated. These women, like the lady that is sitting next to us, needs to be celebrated as a role model. You know, if we have this positive role model of women working with men in a very professional way, taking the nation forward, I think this is what we need to inculcate among our children, because children are the future. You know, we are not the future anyway. We are the kind of past of the country. Future is yet to be born. And in order for that future to really take shape, we have to invest in education, we invest in women. These are the lessons that on the 14th of August that we have to learn. That nation is not born. Nation is created, you know, it is nourished, it's socialized.
And some wise man once said that your past is your future.
Yes, yes, our past is our future, and I think you know, all of that what has been said here, if it's actually practiced, implemented, and you know, taken forward,
That's
this
the real
country
problem.
Can really
Unfortunately, we have a lot of
anybody.
good things to say, but when it really comes down to the implementation aspect, we seem to suffer a lot. Why do you think that is the case, sir?
It's you know, it's easier said than done,
That's
so to
true.
say.
That's
But at the same time, you know, what is hard to change? Your own personal habit. You know, if I want to change a nation, I have to change myself first.
That is the only
so
way.
I think if we all actually, you know, practice this in our own families, we encourage our daughters
I think
and sisters.
more than our
and-
families, we practice it amongst our own persons. Like if we start by starting with the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror and say, okay, let me fix anything that's wrong with me. And if everybody does that, instead of trying to preach to other people to fix themselves, then I think we would be moving in the right direction. What would be your message, sir, on the 14th of August to the people at large?
Sir, my belief is that, you know, we have a lot of potential as a nation, and we have to, you know, work towards, you know, galvanizing that potential into action. You know what I'm saying? We keep saying we Pakistan has a lot of talent, but now it is time to put that talent into action. Allow people, you know, give people equal opportunities. You know, don't give them, you know, give them an axe so they can actually help themselves. So that is should be our approach, that we have to build the nation. There might be few lapses, and we understand there are problems, but that doesn't stop us from actually making an extra effort.
The political
Those
will
are
and the
those-
intentions need to be there.
Yes, political will is the fundamental thing for any change. If there's no political will, there is no change. And I think it's difficult thing to change. If you want to change the setting of your drawing room, probably it will take a lot, you have to make a lot of compromises. But that is the only way forward, that we just have to keep believing that Pakistan can go and actually sit in the Assembly of Nations with a lot of pride if we invest on our future generation.
Absolutely.
And education is probably the only way forward.
So we leave it at that because we're completely out of time. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and on this auspicious day, all we can say is that Happy Independence Day to you, and you must also think about the things that we spoke about in this program and fix this country by fixing yourself. With that hope and on that note, it's goodbye.